This is episode 3. Of course, the first 2 were with Lou, right? I am Cheyenne. This is Sobriety 7. And with me today, I have Avery, baby. How are you
Hi,
today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to start having more and more of these so that way we can really utilize this podcast to bring awareness to addiction, talk about it, eliminate the stigma around alcohol in general or drugs in general. And I liked the topic that it is you wanted to I liked the topic that you wanted to discuss, which was how addiction can lead from one substance to shifting to a completely other substance, right?
Mhm.
So if you wanted to go ahead and tell me more about that, I would love it. I'd love if you start out.
Well, I guess I never really considered myself like an alcoholic. Um, and it took me a long time to come to terms with like identifying as an addict, but I know that I have an addictive personality. When I like something, I like hyperfixate on it and I want a lot of it. So that's dangerous in like a lot of instances. So if it feels good, I'll do it until it doesn't feel good. And that goes with like friendships, relationships, substances, habits. Like, um, it's definitely like a little octopus with lots of little
Yeah.
tentacle suckers.
Yeah, absolutely. I realized when I got in sober from, all of the drugs, right? The nicotine, even though it's not a drug, but like for me, that was a bad vice that I was addicted to. And I got rid of the
Mhm.
weed and I got rid of the alcohol and the Coke and the Adderall. I realized that I had another thing that I became addicted to, which was food and then fitness, early in
Mhm.
my sobriety. Let me try my phone. Early in my sobriety, I realized that I'm like using fitness as a really unhealthy coping mechanism. If I was feeling sad, I'm like, to the gym, mad to the gym. So I was going to the gym like 3 times a day. And I'm like, okay, this isn't healthy either. Like, I need to learn in those moments to just sit. And then was using food, right? In the beginning, with a lot of calls that I had, I was like, anytime I felt stressed out from a call, I was like, go get a PB&J, like go get an apple, go get an orange, go get a piece of pizza, go get cookies, right? It was like whatever I could possibly eat, that became like my new vice. So I definitely hear you when it's like that addictive personality. It's like recognizing that though is, a completely different other thing, right? It's like, well, at least I'm recognizing it, working on it. I don't know. Have you been working on it? Has it been something that you're more aware of now?
It's something I've been working on for a long time. I think like I'm very comfortable now like identifying as like an addict, and it's I personally like labels. I like being able to label things and identify them, like know how to deal with them, but I know that that doesn't fit for everybody, but it's something that I'm okay with because it's letting me heal, and I'm only able to do one thing at a time. So first it was hard drugs. Like coke was, I yeah, I had no control. I always envied people who could just like party once a year or have one drink or do, just the minimal. I can never. I was always all or nothing, and I had to stop it all. Like I couldn't. I tried weaning. I tried same thing with drinking. I tried like, oh, let me just have one drink or two drinks, and it would never work for me. So I had to cut it out completely,
Yeah.
and that's been since 2018. I quit smoking cigarettes first, so that's been going on 2 years in January. And then I quit alcohol. It's been a year next month. I still smoke weed like cigarettes. But like I said, I'm doing one thing at a time because if I did everything at once, it wouldn't work. So that will be the next step, is to like eventually go 30 days, but I want to hit my year mark for alcohol first and like just have that under my belt so I can be like, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
But I do want to travel a lot, and like I don't want to be dependent on anything other than food, which is like a whole other addiction for me.
Yep.
But like,
I hear
um,
that. Fuck.
yeah. So one thing at a time. I think food will probably be the last thing because I've struggled with like an eating disorder since I was 12. Like I've been bulimic, so it's something that it's always too much. It's always I want more, I want more, I want more.
Yeah.
Gluttony definitely be my sin.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
yeah, I think it's more difficult with food, at least because like you need it to survive. Like I
Mhm.
can't avoid it like I could avoid Coke and alcohol and all that other stuff, but um we'll get there when we get there. I'm giving myself grace and being patient because like being hard on myself never worked. Like,
Absolutely. It's like we have two friends inside of us. Like we have like that really nice, kind, compassionate version of ourselves. Reese's. Shout out to Reese's non-alcoholic beverages. I love those shits. Oh my God. But I realize that they make it very hard to wake up in the morning. I'm like, I feel tired. I'm like, oh my God, it has, because I know what I'm putting into my body. So I'm like, this is
yeah.
the only thing that I've changed. And now it's hard to wake up. So I realize I'm like, recess are for weekends, right? And even I'm still waking up early, but at least like I can wake up slower. But Monday through Friday, I got to be like, anyways.
Yeah. And you wake up really early too. You don't need to be slow in the morning.
4:30 in the AM. Heyo. It helps me get that uninterrupted time. Even though like we
Mhm.
do have girls who are international, so like I still will be getting messages, but I'm like from 4:30 to 7:30, like I'm not touching my phone unless it is to like put something on the story or film a piece of content. And that's usually what I use that time for, because that's when your brain is the most awake. Your brain's like, okay, we got the most energy, we got the most power, like the most bandwidth. So that's what I utilize that time for. And if I wake up late, now I feel behind. But it's that self-compassion. And then circling it back, ADHD, to the having like two friends inside of you. It's like you have that, friend that's like really kind to you, give you compassion. And this is somewhere where we lack that a lot. So I like that you said that. And then we have that, the criticizer, the one who's there like, oh, you piece of shit. Like you're like, no, don't want to hear her, right? If you think of like Inside Out, all the little characters, it's like you got that one character that's just negative Nancy up there. She's
Mhm.
just like there to shit on your day. So I like to silence her the best that I can because, sometimes we'll say things to ourselves that we wouldn't even say to a friend or a family, right? It's like I used to always call myself a piece of shit. I was like, oh, you piece of shit. And then I'm like, I would never call anybody that, like somebody that I love. So I'm like, so it's pretty safe to say that I don't love myself. Now let's identify what that is. And drugs had a huge play on that, right? Like honoring yourself and honoring your word and honoring your ability to be the best version of yourself is really hard to honor when you're constantly being like, I'm gonna go to the gym and then you drink and you're like, okay, well, like maybe I'll go to the gym tomorrow, right? So you're not honoring your word and you're not honoring keeping yourself to a higher standard. And I realized every single time I was doing drugs, I was like lowering my standards more and more. But I do like what you said about the food. Like it's something that we need, right? It's for Coke, it's like you gotta go find the guy. You gotta find the guy, find the Coke. Alcohol, it's a little bit harder because it's like in every store or in every restaurant. You can DoorDash it. It's like I checked out
Mhm.
cookies the other day and they were like, do you want Moscato with this? I'm like, no, I don't want Moscato with this order. I want milk with this order. Why was that not recommended? Like, figure it out, AI. Like, what the fuck? So it's a lot easier to avoid. But when it comes to food, it's like we have to now not only rewire our brain when it comes to drugs, we also have to relearn how to eat, right? Because, like yourself, you've struggled with food. I've struggled with food for a very long time, right? I was
Mhm.
always told from both my parents who were overweight, like, be careful what you eat, like, careful what you eat. So I'm like, but I was never an undereater because of all that scarcity of like, or that scared mindset. I was like, I just overeat. I remember I would come home from high school, cook up a big ass bowl of pasta, throw some butter and salt in it, and I would just sit on the couch, just eat an entire bowl of pasta. You would not catch me doing that today, but that's because we're trying to learn so many new things. Like I do feel like a new little baby infant. It's like you're relearning the world. Like you're relearning life.
I really feel like a baby, even like just I'm like, I'm crying all the time, like a baby. Like it's like I feel like a child and I'm just getting to know myself and the whole world. And I'm really seeing things for the first time. And like I didn't really want to get sober forever. I
Mm.
just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it for a year.
Yeah.
I'm never going to drink again. I can say that with absolute confidence. Ugh. So I didn't think my perspective would shift that much, but once you give yourself the opportunity to grow in some space, like I took a lot of space away from a lot of things, and it's like, oh, this is starting to make sense. The clarity, I'm
Mhm.
not fogging up my brain. And same thing with the foods. Like I'm trying to eat better and put better things into my body. And when I have something that isn't good, I had Taco Bell the other day, girl, and I was sick. I had gut rot for 3 days. Three
Yeah.
days. And I couldn't figure it out. And somebody pointed out to me, well, every time you had Taco Bell before, you were drunk. So the poison counteracted the poison, and you
Yep.
were just unhealthy in general. So you didn't notice.
Hell yeah. You're like sitting there polluting your body, and then you're like, it sounds really good. It's never like fruit, but that is
Yeah.
something that I noticed on psychedelics. Like anytime I would take shrooms, I
Mm-hmm.
was always like, where the fruit at, right? Where are the healthier things? Because you are having this like spiritual weight, not advocating for fucking drugs, guys. But I'm saying
It's different.
it's
Yeah.
different. Like when you are drinking alcohol, it literally is poison, right? But shrooms, weed from the earth, right? My belief is I don't see those as bad. Of course, you can abuse absolutely everything in this world, even food, right? But I
Yeah.
I worked in the weed industry for a really long time, and I also have seen a lot of studies that have eliminated people's depression and suicidal thoughts using
Hmm.
psychedelics, right? In the right way and being guided in that, those case studies, right? I've seen it be better than the antidepressants and the, you know,
And
anti
just
anti anxiety, and it's like, it's just for me, I realize when you're drinking alcohol, you're poisoning your body and then you're reaching for poison. But when I would take shrooms, right, I was like, where are the apples? I want to paint, I want to be in nature. I was more like
let me
earth.
go look at a tree. Let me hug the earth. Like,
Sit here in this mud. Just
yeah.
sit here. Like, oh, this is nice, right? Just like getting dirty. And I realized
Right.
it too. And later on, I heard this story where back in the day, they gave alcohol to the indigenous people and they took away the psychotics because the psychotics were making people like have awareness and ultimate consciousness and be awakened, their spirit. And whereas if they give them alcohol, they're lower vibration, they're, not using their brain. Their brain is literally shutting off. So they're like, here, take the alcohol, take the moonshine, and give us back the psychedelics because these things are making people wake up. And that's why I'm like, if more people were to get sober, kind of like where you were saying, I just want to do the year. And that's where I was too. I was like, I just want to do the year. Like, let's see. And then I got to the 5 month mark. I was like, fuck that. What?
Yeah.
I have been able to accomplish so much more than I had when I was drinking. And I was treating my body like an actual trash can, and then there will be those people like, I could take it or leave it. It's like, sure, even if that were to be me, I don't think that I would have gotten to this point because I had to see that there was a big enough problem because it is
Yeah.
so normalized in our society. But now that I look at the friends who can take it or leave it, I try to like, hey, like, what if you just were to not do that at all? Like, then you wouldn't have those, days where like, oh, I feel like shitty, for like 2, 3 days after. But like, I love my glass of wine every once in a while. I'm like, but like but like who am I to tell somebody how to live their life? But that is why I always say to you and the girls, I'm like, I'm really glad that I had this, alcohol addiction, that I was a fucking raging drunk and was fucking my life up. Because had that not happened, I wouldn't have realized all of the other things I need to improve on, right? It's like, what food am I putting into my body? How am I working out? What choices am I making? How am I evolving? Because when I was drinking, I don't know if you can agree with this, but I was just in such a level of complacency. Like I wasn't trying to get better. I was just like,
Yeah.
next weekend we're gonna go out, girls' night.
Yeah.
Like every
That'll
4
make it better. Let's go drink.
like I feel like shit about myself. Let's go drink. And then feel shit about yourself like even more. And then you feel good for like 2, 3 days. And then you're like, just repeat the cycle, right? And then COVID hit. And it's like everybody was drinking. Everyone was, oh, actually, I don't know if I could say COVID on here. Oops, I said it twice.
Are we
Ugh,
not allowed to?
I don't know. They've been so weird about it. I said it in the DM on Instagram and they shut my fucking messages off for 24 hours. I was like,
What?
that's what I said.
That's that scares me. I'm like, what's happening then? Like,
I'm like, ugh, 'cause like this whole like freedom of speech. Is it though? Because we're
no.
getting censored, so it's like freedom to say whatever you want, but if you don't say what we like, we're going to shut you down. So it's like I feel like I don't know about all
We
that.
just think we're free. We think we're free. We think we get to make choices. No, it's like a baby when, or a child, we'll say a toddler, when you have two outfits for them, you get to choose what you want to wear today. You don't actually have a choice. You're not choosing what you want to wear. You don't get to wear your pajamas and your fairy wings if you want to. No, mommy decides. And that's exactly what the government does. And everything that they feed us, I'm just like, the food, the medicine,
Yeah.
it's all, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm like, it's to keep us safe and complacent.
It's not conspiracy. It's like it makes sense. And then they say the people who are conspiracy are like the tinfoil wearing hat people. And it's like, you know what? Somebody's got to question this shit at some point. And that's the thing about food addiction, right? I was fucking addicted to Chick-fil-A. Like I could not stop. I could not stop. I was like, what the fuck? Like it was, I woke up and I was like, no, it sounds good right now. Spicy chicken sandwich, Sunjoy. Let's do it. I'm not drinking alcohol. There's no harm in it. And then I looked at the ingredients. Then I looked, why the fuck is there aluminum in there? Why is there aluminum in there? Why is there contraceptions? Like, why is there birth control in this birth? Like, why is there all this
Um,
shit that doesn't need to be it? And then you see on Instagram, right? More people are getting educated. You see the list of, all the ingredients that America uses.
40 ingredients.
It's just like the ingredients that we use here, they're not even necessary, right? And then you see that video of the burger that's left out for a month, and it's just like still a burger in a month. It's like, hi, I'm like, ugh, like that. That goes in my body. And that's what I think about like the Taco Bell. But I ate Taco Bell even when I wasn't drunk. Like in high school, I grew up on that shit. The 5 layer or the $5 box. You get two tacos, fucking beefy 5 layer burrito, those little twisty cinnamon sticks, and then Baja Blast. And I was like, game, loved it. And everyone was like, come like vultures. And they're like, get away from my fucking box. It's my box, bitch.
It's so hard to eat well too because like organic foods, which a lot of times I'm still questionable about so many things, but like
Organic, actually.
yeah, but I'm like, it's so expensive in comparison to like garbage. Like literally, you can buy a $5 box with so much food, but to like make that, and I
Yep.
don't know about in the States, but in Canada, the cost of living and like our economy is freaking crazy. Like I don't
We're,
even know how people are living, honestly. Oh, that's my, can you hear that?
no,
There's a fire alarm. Sorry.
it's your incense. Yeah, I like lit a candle my mom sent me. But yeah, no, it's really expensive. We were talking about this yesterday. I went to go get those recess drinks, right? Which are like 3.84, all right, for a can. I'm like, okay. Right. But then
Mm,
like a little shot of like tequila is like $1, $2. You're like, huh, that's weird. Right. It's like they
mm,
always make it a cheaper option. But what we were comparing it to, it was like, okay, look, like there's this fruit medley, right? Like blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries, and this like
mm.
little $18. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I look at the hot Cheetos, they're like $4 for this big ass bag of hot Cheetos. I'm like, because I love hot Cheetos, but I'm like, I'm gonna go get fruit. But then in my head, I was just like, let's see how much, like, what's the comparison? Because I looked at my 18. I'll send you a picture of it later. I was like, eight, but I still bought
Crazy.
it because I'm like, I know that the fruit is better for me. Is it like probably like covered in pesticides and fucking all this other probably, right? But I know that
Mhm.
it's not that Red Lake 40 or the Yellow Lake or all those dyes and the
Yeah.
hot. Like I'm drawn to that because of all the chemicals they're putting in it. And I like what you said about the mom laying out two outfits. Like, which ones do you want to wear?
Mhm.
I am still, regardless of like me, like seeing the brainwashing that happens with alcohol, like you see how brainwashed people are. But I'm still so programmed from such a young age as picking out your clothes. Like I didn't have a say. Like if I could have had a say, I'd be wearing rain boots, like a pink fuzzy jacket with like black cheetah pants and like little kitty cat horns. But I was never able to like choose that. But we're programmed
Yeah.
and conditioned from such a young age, right? Even relating back to like I cry a lot now, right? Like that's unnormal.
Yeah.
I think
Why?
it's pretty unnormal to be like, I'm fine, everything's great, and inside you're like, oh, I hate everybody. Right?
Yeah. It's so unfortunate from like such a young age we're taught to like mask our feelings and disassociate and distract ourselves, and we
Yeah.
wonder why so many people who are unhappy. And it's like, well, you had these little balls of joy who came into the world just being themselves and wondrous of everything, and then you squish their little souls, tell them that they're not good enough. If you want to be good enough, buy this product over here and it'll make you feel better. Drink this or eat this or do this, act like this. And then, like, we don't end up living our lives to the fullest. So I honestly think that, like, taking the veil of just alcohol off
Mhm.
has saved my life in more ways than just like the addiction aspect of it. Cause now I see the world through a completely different lens. And it's like so unfortunate that people feel like they have to mask all the time. Like it's so silly because we're all going through it. We're all feeling these things. We all have, especially men. Like I feel bad for like the men folk, and I have this discussion with a lot of men all the time because of what I do for a living. And it's like we don't get the opportunity to just express ourselves openly and to be vulnerable. It's like, especially boys, like big boys don't cry. Don't be a bitch. Don't be a pussy. Like, take it like a man. And it's like, women, yeah, oh, look at her. Is she on her period? She's emotional. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? We all get put down in some way for having fucking feelings. And we're like humans having a spiritual experience. And part of being connected with our spiritual selves is feeling. And everything that this system is set up to do is to disconnect us from ourselves. Entertainment, sports,
Yeah.
fucking name brands, Instagram. Thank God I found you on Instagram because honestly, it changed my whole algorithm. I put up one sobriety video and was like, you know what? I'm going to take a risk. I work as an adult entertainer. So it's, as you know, it's very difficult for me not to drink in my environment. People take it almost as like an insult to themselves if I'm not drinking with them. So it was a big thing for me to publicly post I don't drink anymore. I've been drinking fake drinks for like 3 months, like, but it changed my whole algorithm. And because I posted that, you came on, and now I've got all this like healthy, positive stuff and a lot of like ass and titties, but still, it's like, it's
Internet.
changed. Yeah, it's balance, but it's like changed my whole life just cutting alcohol out. And like, I thought that Coke was the worst demon of all of mine, but it was alcohol. Like if when I drank too much, I wanted to do a bunch of blow so I could drink more. It was like
Yeah.
hand in hand the little devils danced. And it's like I went out last night and I if anybody sees this, I'm not judging any of you. I love all of you, but I forgot what it was like to be surrounded by people who are drunk. And like, cause I'm at work, but I'm working. So I'm in a different mode, but like to actually socialize with people you know and love who are intoxicated. Oh my God. I And I will say this, I smoked my joints and then I left out of there as quickly as possible because even the weed could not keep me calm in that situation. People were yelling and they were this close to my face. Like I I'm like, I don't know why anybody thinks that this is something that makes it better when everyone is so obnoxious and like out of tune with themselves, everybody else, interrupting, stumbling, like that one over there is being sick. Like it's just such a shit show. And I think about the peace that I feel when
Mhm.
I'm sober, and I'm like, why did I wait so long? Like why are they trying to do this to us? Like it frustrates me so much.
I
Like
know.
I've been taking pictures and I'm gonna eventually post it in group, but of all of these signs that I see promoting bars and like the funny quippy little things that they say, I'm like, some things are like cheaper than therapy. Like, what? Like, you're gonna need therapy after this. Like, it gives you lemons, get tequila. Why don't you make lemonade? That's
Yeah.
like way tastier than tequila. Like,
Way cheaper to just make lemonade. It's free from a tree. You put a little
right?
sugar
It's free from a tree.
on a tree. Yeah.
Uh,
And I like how you said like it removed the veil over like your life, right? It's like
yeah.
alcohol keeps you in this weird, like not force field bubble. It keeps you in like a weird bubble where it's like this is why I always say I'm like people would tell me like, oh, because I met a couple people who were sober when I was like drunk all the time. And I was like, wow, like I did respect them, but a part of me was like, wow, they're so boring. Like they're missing out. They're missing
Mm.
out on all the fun. But then it's like experiences like you had last night. It's like, no, we're just way more obnoxious. We get louder. We start to say things that we can't take back. and then we start to do things that could get us in trouble or potentially killed. Like the fact that I'm still here is fucking alarming because there were so many times I put myself in danger. So many times I put others in danger. And I'm not saying I blame alcohol, right? It's the person who drinks the alcohol. It's the person who has the gun that pulls the trigger. It's the person, but it's like, where are you at mentally? And because we're in a society where we don't talk about feelings, oh, she's on her period, or he needs to suck it up. Like he's such a, what do they call it? He's such a beta or like a simp.
Yeah.
Boy, it's like, why can't we be spiritually connected to ourselves and realize that through this human experience, we are going to experience emotions that come along with it based off of the things that it is we're experiencing in life, right? You have somebody pass away, it's like, well, you're supposed to suck it up, butter, like don't cry. It's like little baby fry. It's like you're supposed to feel these emotions, right? But also, there's a fine line of like not allowing it to victimize yourself. It's like you could very well be a victim, but to keep yourself in that suffrage for so long, it's like you got to break free of it. And it's a lot easier to break free from it when you're not under the influence of alcohol, right? Because I definitely hear you. When I started drinking, I was like, well, let's get Molly. Let's get Coke. Let's get ecstasy. Let's go get some cigarettes. Let's get a pack of Newports. Like, let's go. It's like anything went. I was like, I did not care because your brain is literally shutting off. Your brain is like, your cognitive thinking is off, right? It's impaired. So you start to slur your words. You start to stumble when you walk. And I have so many videos of me like trying to figure it out. And I was like, but I would dance, like try to walk it off that I was stumbling. And I just look back at those videos and I'm like, even then I was performative. Like I was clearly not okay, but I didn't want people to know. So I would stumble and I was like, I've had to do that, right? It's like, and then you just get into this mindset where you're never fully yourself. And that imposter syndrome comes in where you're like, okay, I know that wasn't me. It was the alcohol. I know I wouldn't have done that had it not been the alcohol, but I did it because I chose as the person to ingest the alcohol. And now I have to sit with these consequences, right?
And we don't sit well with things when we drink them away. So what do? We just
We just keep the cycle going, right?
Yeah. Honestly, your videos when you say like it's not drinking, it's like sitting with your feelings.
Yeah.
That is the biggest thing. And it's something that I've been touching on in therapy a lot. Like I didn't realize how long I'd been disassociating for. And like when I think of, like we were just talking about, like when I think about it, like our whole society is doing that. So like how do we teach ourselves to be better when, there's a whole system that's set up for us to fail, basically. So to be able to break away and to put yourself first in a world that is always like, you're not enough, you're not good enough. No, 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 no. it's a huge feat. So anybody who is struggling with trying to get sober, like it's definitely not a linear thing. It's not like I'm healed. No,
no.
I've almost been a year without alcohol and like shit still triggers me deeply. Like
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I had such a mental mind fuck at the year mark, because in my head, I was like, I'm just gonna be like a healed, I'm gonna break out of my cocoon, I'm gonna be a little fucking butterfly. And although things were magical and my life was immensely better, I realized that there are still so many things that I can improve on, right? But that's what plays into the Kaizen mentality, which is like constantly and forever improving oneself, like till the day we die, like getting better, right? How's your communication? Like, how is your self-compassion? How is your ability to love others as deeply as you love yourself? Do you love yourself, right? There's just so many things that in order to grasp it, it's going to take time. So when I look at my life of 10, 15 years of being under the influence of some kind of drug,
yeah.
I relatively see it as like, okay, I've been a year in this shit. Like there is a ton more for me to learn and evolve and grow. So, don't feel defeated when you don't get there and it feels not as you had imagined it to be, right? Because I thought at the year when I get there, then then things will be different. No, it's different along the way. Like That is why I posted that 4-month video of me and how I was reflecting. I was just all over the place. I was like happy, and then I'm like my dad, and then I'm crying, and I'm like, oh my God, that video is so just scattered. But that's what my brain felt like at month 4. Month 4, I was like, what the fuck is actual life? And that's when I started to reflect that I'm like, oh my God, alcohol is here to keep us down. Alcohol just feeds into the buying of cheaper, shitty food. And then you feel cheaper and you feel shittier, not honoring yourself, not loving yourself. And then that's when you play the is everybody else's fault but me. It's like, it's going to be hard to break free of this, you know, worldly influence that we have, but it is possible. But you got to be, and you get tougher and you get stronger through it. And then also, feeling those emotions and sitting with it. It's like, so even just that sentence, it's like, wow, that's a lot to do. It's like, so you have to give yourself compassion and be like, all right now we're feeling these emotions, and tomorrow we're going to war with the world. Like, fuck the system, right? So it's like, you got a lot on your plate. No way in hell on that plate can you be like, you know what? Let's put a margarita in there. Like, no, that is going to throw you way the fuck off. So it's like sticking to sobriety gives you more than just like, I have X amount of days. It's like, no, it gives me my life back. It's like, I really feel like I'm living again.
I honestly feel like I'm living for the first time
Mhm.
ever. Like, I feel like a little baby, and that like my growth period stopped just as soon as I stopped. As soon as I started doing drugs, I stopped growing. Like, my brain did not develop in certain areas because I stunted my growth with drugs and alcohol. So I'm like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm fucking 15 in my brain. Like, that that's crazy to me. So dealing with a little 15-year-old's feelings, like I'm literally talking to my inner child every day, the little baby, the little 7-year-old, the adolescent who's angry and wants to rebel, and then I'm trying to like connect with like my higher wiser self, which I didn't even know existed. So it's it's definitely a journey, and everybody's is different, right? And I think that this program especially gives us so much room to grow and understanding. And just honestly, Cheyenne, I am so impressed, and I say it all the time, like what you've accomplished in just one short year, like 9 months of this little baby. I can't wait to see what it's like 5 years from now. You know what I mean? Like all of the lives that you saved just because you saved yourself, there's a reason you didn't die all of those times. So I think about that too. Like everybody in my life that's passed away, I used to do way more drugs than all my girls. Like I don't understand why it was them and not me. But I have a responsibility to myself, the people that I love, and the people that I don't even know, just to be the best version of myself and to put goodness out into the world. Like life is hard enough. We don't need to make it any harder on ourselves or anybody else. And that's what being in that cycle does. Like even just one drink, like you said, people who can take it or leave it, I don't really understand them anymore either. Cause I'm like, you don't really need it. So why do you do it? Like it doesn't really feel that great, does it? Like I maybe for a second and you're like, ooh, but then you have to keep doing it and then you feel sick and then you're tired for like it just I don't know. I don't even know where I was going, ADHD.
But I can pick up, where you left off, and it's just like, yeah, like, do you really need it for that 20 mean dopamine high? It's like your life could be so much better, right? But this is the thing that I've heard a couple times on calls that I take, and it's, I haven't fucked up my life. I haven't got a DUI. I haven't gone to jail. I haven't had a breakup. Like my kids are fine, right? I just have this like once in a while, right? And it's like, to each their own. But for me, it's like, if you don't need it, right, but you also don't see anything wrong with it, you're most likely not going to stop until, that's what Mel Robbins was talking about. She's like, my husband, decided he doesn't want to drink. And she was like, oh, like totally forgot about it and was like, oh, here, I'll get you a glass of wine. He's like, no, Mel, like, I don't drink. And she's like, come on, just one. Like, it's not going to hurt you. It's just, we don't get in trouble. Like, it's just one. He's like, Mel, you need to stop being so concerned about what's in my cup and be more worried about why you are concerned as to what is in my cup. Why can't you drink alone? And we know deep down, like it's not good for you. Even the smallest amount, if any at all, is not good for you, right? And those studies that went out, like, one glass of wine a day, right? Keeps the doctor away. Those studies were funded by none other than the alcohol and wine industries. Like, so gotcha, bitch, right? So it's like
All a
we look
scam.
at it, it's a fucking scam. Escape the system, right? I mean, we look at all those movies where they fight against the system, right? Like Hunger Games, like we like the rebels, like we like the ones that are divergent, right? Like we like those people. But then when we think about it in ourselves, in our world, it's like, no, like they're there to help us. They care. I'm like,
I know. I want to shake everybody. I'm just like, wake the
wake
fuck
up! Wake up! I'm just gonna just start going around smacking people. Woman on the loose, smacking people. Wake up! And then I'm the crazy one. And then they're like, she's got a tinfoil hat on. She's a conspiracy, like Alex Jones. Well, you know, he's a lot. He's a lot. That's a whole other day and topic. He's a wow factor. But it's like some of these things that people are saying, it's like they're not wrong, right? And alcohol is the first thing that woke me up to this. Alcohol is the first thing that made me say, wow, I've been sleeping. I've been sleeping for some time, and I finally
up.
feel like I am awake. And it feels so nice. It's something I would never regret doing ever in my life, no matter how hard of the day that I may have.
Mm.
All right.
Do you have your other call coming up?
I do. He just texted me. So I guess we'll leave it on that note. I could talk to you all freaking
I
day.
know. I'm
But
like,
this
there's so
is
much more I want to
I'm
say.
so excited to have the girls hear this. We'll hop on another one when we have a little bit more time, but I think we covered a lot of topics. I don't know how I'm going to summarize this. I'm just going to be like two ADHD girls going on. I'm just going to, conspiracies are out there, right? Quit drugs and give more hugs and start smacking people.
I love that.
I
Punch
love
today.
you so much. Thank you for hopping on with me today. This is going to probably be posted today. I don't know if he's going to do audio or our faces. I kind of want our faces in there because we move a lot. That's how you know
We do.
you just move. You move a lot. But I love you, and I will see you on tonight's call. And I appreciate you doing this podcast with me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I hope you have a wonderful day.
All right, I'll
Love
see you later.
you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.